Hello, guys, and welcome to the 8th episode of the MSC Performance Podcast. My name's Mark. Joking, I did that last week. My name's Luke, and I'm joined with Sonia today. Well done, Sonia. Good communication from the start. Today's going to be similar to our last episode, where we have 4 questions that people have asked us throughout the week, both a combination of through Instagram and also in person. So today we got a quick fire, 4 questions. Should you wear straps while you're doing your lifting? Should you be wearing knee sleeves? What are the benefits of the safety bar squat, and is it a regression of a barbell squat? Are there extra benefits to it, etc.? And how heavy should you be doing your medicine ball work? Should you be looking to go heavier? Should you keep it light and focus on speeds? Where do you begin? So 4 questions, all a little bit different.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Hi, Luke. Thanks for the warm welcome.
Yes.
I'm very excited for this podcast. I think we can maybe start chat with the strap topic. Obviously, this has been discussed a lot on our Friday session with the boys, using it or not using it for the RDLs, for the Romanian deadlifts. So I think we can maybe just start with a question. Are you, Luke, using them?
I do use straps, yep. So I don't use them for my heavy deadlifts, but I use them for Romanian deadlifts, which I think is what this question was about. I think you found that on a Friday when we do RDLs in the Barbell Club, which is one of our primary hinge patterns, and we think that everyone should be able to do an RDL. But a lot of times we're doing it with a slower tempo and more repetitions than you might do for like a heavier deadlift, as it's because it's a full range of motion through the hip. It lends itself better as a hypertrophy exercise. So because of these things, it's just a long time to be holding the bar. So for that reason, I use straps. I also find it quite uncomfortable that amount of time with the mixed grip, and no one wants to hook grip for 30-40 seconds. So I am massive fan for Romanian deadlift of using the straps.
Exactly. It's not cheating. I wouldn't say you cheat, as you said it, like your basically for arm muscles you get quite fatigued, especially if you're doing like higher rep range. And I think the benefit of using the straps is basically that you are able to carry on for a little bit longer, and possibly you can use this maybe in your deloads. But I think, as you said it, like for the Romanian deadlift for yourself, for deadlifts maybe as well, but I think it more than like it's based on whether it's like competition related or no, because you obviously don't want to make your grip weak, which is not the fact that it makes your grip weak, but like
it's the amount of exposure you get to training the grip per week. If you look at like from a powerlifting, which is where it's getting mixed up, because the barbell guys aren't powerlifters. So by any stretch of the imagination, it's not cheating. It's like, is wearing a belt cheating? Like, where does it end? You're just trying to maximize your lifting with the overarching goal of you want to get bigger, you want to get stronger. So if your main goal is to get stronger, then straps is an absolute given. It's not who can do the heaviest Romanian deadlift for a triple. And then if that was the competition, then maybe it would be without straps. But it's not cheating because there's nothing to cheat for. It's your goal is to lift the most amount of weight through the biggest range of motion you can. So to support that, straps is a great idea. But going back to like the competition style lifting, I don't wear them for the competition lift, but like Seppi does, and Seppi's probably the best deadlifter at the gym. What Seppi would normally do his top set without straps. So he's getting the exposure, he's getting the practice in with the grip, so his grip stays strong. But then because he does hook grip, his back offsets he does with straps. And that's, it saves his thumbs. It's a little bit more tolerable because you do hook grip as well. It's uncomfortable. So if you're doing it for like 4, 5, 6 repetitions, it's an extremely long time to be working on the thumbs. So to save himself, normal grip for his top set, and then his back offsets, he does it with straps. You look like his pause deadlift work always with straps. So it's about like, it's not that it's right or wrong, it's about utilizing it when it's needed. Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, like it keeps the arms relaxed. And as you mentioned, like in weightlifting, like weightlifters use straps a lot, but again, they're not allowed in competition. So it depends how often you want to use them. Obviously, it's good to get used to lifting without. Similarly as with the RDL, like probably not all the time, but to enhance your lift, I 100% suggest that.
It's funny because I've started doing B stance Romanian deadlifts with dumbbells. And I was doing like 35 out of hand, so it's not heavy, it's 70 kilos, because it's like 8 reps on each leg.
It's great.
By the end of it, my forearms are absolutely killing it, and that's with straps. Yeah. So I dread to think if I thought, you know what, I'm not doing straps, I'll use a little bit of chalk, I'll do as heavy as I can. I probably don't think I'd get above 30s. So by just adding that's
the strap, thing that it allows you to lift probably a bit more weight, and I think it's just a great external like support or enhancement.
Is there any times you would tell someone not to use straps?
For specific lift, maybe.
Sure.
So if it's, let's say, a powerlifter preparing for competition or like training with his conventional deadlift, I probably wouldn't suggest to wear it often with the conventional deadlift, as he would then might find like, weaker. Obviously, you need to strengthen your grip as well, just doing it without.
It just changed the mechanics ever so slightly. I remember reading a research study on straps versus no, and he looked at different EMGs on straps versus no straps, and there is a difference. I can't remember the study.
Actually, looked at that. There is difference with like speed and the force development. So there is difference, and it changes like the force, but it again depends on what you want to kind of use it for. So like if you guys want to push your RDL a little bit, heavier, and we kind of go in for the higher rep ranges like 7, 8. I think it's just super beneficial. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, much like your training, it should be periodized. So you're wearing your straps further away from competition when your training isn't quite specific. When you're getting more specific, you're probably not using the straps for the top sets because they're the most specific to your competition lift if you're doing a competition. So yeah, you're just periodizing it.
Or mix it up a little bit, like you as you mentioned, like
top set.
You can
so your most specific work is without the straps.
Yeah. But like there's other things how to like make your grip stronger, or give it a bit different stimulus, like changing the bar thickness, or using chalk, or using the hook grip as you mentioned. But yeah, overall,
one little pet peeve of mine is I see a couple of guys doing it is where like they have a grip problem, but because they enjoy, like, I don't want to say it's just for the clout, but they're on Instagram and they're lifting like 5-10% more than they can do. They're not addressing the actual grip problem, and they're using the straps. And I guess the argument might be they're getting heavy exposure, they're still building their strength, but they're not addressing the weak link, and their deadlift weak link is their grip, and they're masking it with the straps. And behind the scenes, they might be doing grip work, but ultimately the most specific grip work you can do is the deadlift. So yeah, maybe I'm just looking at it one dimensionally through Instagram, but like you see people, wearing the straps and they get to competition and then they drop the weights. So I think that if you have a grip, I think all your specific work should be done without straps, and then your non-specific work can be done with straps.
I've read a good thing, and I really liked it. It says that like usually the people who are not relatively strong say using straps is cheating. So what do you think about it?
Look into that as you like, people.
Fair.
I think that's a good one to leave on. So
excellent.
Periodize it like you would do your training, your specific work without straps, and then your non-specific, your RDLs, your single leg work that can be done with straps. And it's not cheating if there's nothing to cheat for. If you're not in a 1 rep max competition and you're hiding your straps, that's cheating. But no one's testing your 5 rep max RDL, at least for now.
Great summary.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Second question: should you be wearing knee sleeves? Here we go, similar to the strap. Everyone just wants to know about equipment all the time.
It's the enhancements, all the enhancements.
If we produce MSC performance straps, we'll do another podcast and we'll change our opinion and say should wear them for absolutely
everyone
should
wear them.
But with the knee sleeves, it's a good question as well, because we both wear knee sleeves, and I think we've got some good like research on it as well as like anecdotally. So with the knee sleeves, there was actually a study out last month, and it was looking more. So there's been studies in the past looking at like the 1 rep max difference between knee sleeves and without knee sleeves. And it seems to be that the knee sleeves do increase your performance by about, I think it was 3 or 4%. So if you're,
it's very little, it's still improvement.
3%, absolutely. I'm going to be wearing knee sleeves if you're looking to maximize your lift. But this research study was actually really good because it looked at muscular endurance, so work that probably more people do rather than just powerlifters. Use sets of 6 to 8 and looking how much actual repetitions they could get. If I remember correctly, it's like 80% for AMRAPs, maybe up to a certain RPE cap with 3 minutes rest, and then looking how many reps they would get. And there was no difference between the groups. So it didn't seem to have much of an effect for endurance. And then it also looked, if I remember correctly, at muscular development, looking at an EMG and the muscle activation of the, it was, I think it was vastus medialis, I can't remember, but it was one of the quads anyway, and it was exactly the same. So if your goal is muscle growth, knee sleeves isn't going to particularly have an effect based off this study. And if your goal is just like to maximize your rep work, then it doesn't seem to have an effect. Though the top end strength, it does seem to be a little bit of a benefit from knee sleeves. So if your goal, if you don't compete in a strength sport and your goal is just to lift the most amount of weight, then I'd probably wear knee sleeves. But you don't have to if you just.
I would say maybe like a little guidance for when and how often to wear them. Like I personally, I was kind of trying to avoid using them because I just kind of, again, anecdotally believe that like I want to get my knees stronger itself by themselves. But then I found that it kind of makes me feel a bit more solid and firm. And I also feel that like if you're doing a lot of like knee dominant work through the week, and I found that like in honor lifting, there's obviously a lot of knee flexion, I do feel much better wearing them quite often on my sessions. So in those studies, like I think there would be like some of the conclusions were that like it provides a bit more stiffness.
Warmth.
Probably warmth. Yeah. Obviously you've got different thicknesses with the knee sleeves, so you've got different millimeters. But
have you seen the triple ply knee sleeves? So
no.
If you compete in powerlifting, you're probably allowed to wear single ply, which is like one ply of material. I've seen triple ply, and fucking hell, they're thick. They're about like a centimeter thick. And then when it gets to that point, you're thinking it's not about warmth anymore. It's about like.
I think that probably like makes you feel super solid. Like that's quite thick. I've seen that.
You're on your way to wearing knee wraps at that point.
Yeah.
But if you look at the knee wrap studies, then there's a massive improvement in strength, and there's also a massive reduction in the amount of work your quads are doing because it assists so much in the bottom. But knee sleeves doesn't seem to be that. But like I said, anecdotally, like especially now that I've wore sleeves for a long time, like doing work without knee sleeves just doesn't feel as good.
Yeah.
I'm sure eventually you could build back up to being comfortable, but it just feels so much more secure, snug, warm, like you said. So I
think it also comes with like a bit more training experience, because when you sometimes has like novice person in a gym and they come in like, you know, full geared with like knee sleeves and they've done like very little work. You don't need to wear knee sleeves, like you don't. I think if your knee is maybe a bit achy or you've got some sort of issue or it's a bit more sensitive, you know, like maybe it makes you feel better, like there's the placebo effect over there. But again,
what you don't want to do is you don't want to use the knee sleeves to mask the fact that you've got a knee issue or you've got knee pain. You don't want to just put the knee sleeves on and ignore it. So maybe if you've got knee pain, the answer isn't put knee sleeves on. The answer is, let's have a look at your training. Are you doing too much? Are you doing too much of the same exercise? Is it too repetitive? Look at your lower management, look at your technique. But if you want to maximize the top end strength, maybe sleeves. You know, Sinead, one of the girls that I coach, who's getting really, really good. She competed for the first time and she didn't have knee sleeves.
Yeah.
And she was like, Luke, should I get knee sleeves? I was like, just enjoy your training for now. Look, when you're doing your second and third competition and you're starting to think, okay, I really want to give this a good push, then I can absolutely get knee sleeves on.
Yeah.
But for the first block, for her first competition, she didn't wear knee sleeves. And then also I used to compete in the BDFPA, which is no sleeves. And I did a competition for my first British powerlifting competition, so first comp in knee sleeves, and I squatted 222 kilos, 222.5 kilograms. And then a month later, I did a BDFPA camp, which was no sleeves, and I squatted 222.5 kilos, and it was slightly easier. So at the time, I wasn't using the knee sleeves that much. I was using them just for that competition, for the occasional set. So I, at the time, could squat the same with and without sleeves. Now I dread to think, so I think you definitely become reliant on them. I have another client, Liv, that competes in the military team, and she can't wear knee sleeves, and she has done a couple of British powerlifting competitions, and again, her squat is exactly the same. So I think it's a case of that as you get used to the equipment, get to the sleeves, maybe if you could get past the feeling, you'd be okay. But
I think it's a lot about that subjective feeling appraisal of, you know, the stiffness, the setup, and it probably gives you a little bit of that drive. I mean, I don't know, like that's how I find it. Like,
no, absolutely. Do you think if you are going to be wearing knee sleeves, do you recommend, like with your guys and for yourself, do you wear it for everything? Do you wear it for single leg work?
No, I don't recommend it. I probably recommend it like for squats, probably for cleans. I don't really wear it for snatch myself.
But that's pretty common, isn't it? You see weightlifters put the sleeves on for cleans.
It really depends. Like even when I have like someone training, I don't really tend to put knee sleeves straight away, like at the beginning of the session, like maybe halfway through, or if they actually need it. Like I tend to keep it off, especially at the beginning of the program, or like
like warm up without
exactly them. Yeah.
And that's also like, because then when you do actually put them on, it feels great, and you get that little bit of, it's like putting your belt on, not straight away. If you put your belt on when you get to 60-70%, all of a sudden you put it on, things feel great, and you can probably then mentally and physically feel a little bit better. I guess it's the same idea.
I like to think of these things like performance enhancement, like use it for that little extra
bit of performance enhancement. No, I like it. It just made me think of well, say no more. It's not for the MSC podcast. But yeah, absolutely. So again, we're both on the same page with the straps and the knee sleeves. You're looking to enhance your performance. You're not using your sleeves to hide the fact you've got a knee issue.
Or that you're weak. Some sort of weakness, yeah.
Absolutely. And the research shows that, like, for your volume work, very little difference, if any, but your top end strength, maybe 3-4%. So if your goal is to lift the most amount of weight, absolutely put some knee sleeves on.
Wrap up.
These innuendos are horrible for this question. We need to move on. But also, if your goal is muscle goal, if you have a goal of build as much muscle as you can, you don't need to worry that the knee sleeves are reducing the amount of work your quads are doing. Because I wore knee sleeves the other day to do the new leg extension, and it feels great. I'm sure it would feel great without it, but like I just liked it. Yeah. I saw Chris Hill doing the stack, and I was like, well, I need to get my knee sleeves on. I'm going to try and stack it myself, and I couldn't. I'm about 2/3 of the way down. I'm like, damn, daddy Chris Hill's got some dad strength.
I know, he's got it. Yeah, I tried it. Unreal.
Fantastic. There you go.
Well, moving to SSB,
something we've covered before, but someone asked us as part of the check-in for the Barbell Club of what are the benefits of the safety bar compared to a normal barbell squat, and is it a regression of the exercise?
Yeah, like it's not a regression of your back squat, it's a variation. And I think for people who've been doing back squat, let's say, variation for a long time, and haven't actually done many modalities, I think SSB is one of the best ones to begin with, like, let's say, going from back to front squat straight away. What I think, or why I do it mostly, is like the shoulder orientation and shoulder rotation. So obviously internal and external rotation change, so you don't want to be stuck too much within that one posture. So I think SSB is a great way to kind of almost like, it's still spinal loading, but a bit more anterior load tilt into it. That's one of the reasons why I often use it if we're talking outside of barbell club. Possibly for people who maybe can't front squat, unless I would like use Zercher variation or goblet or belt squat. But SSB is, I wouldn't say it's a regression. Like,
I really don't like thinking of exercises as progressions and regressions. I like to think of them as they all have their purpose.
Yeah.
And you're trying to achieve like a goblet squat. People say, oh, it's a regression of this, but it's just an anterior loaded squat that allows people to get a really good position. So it is an easy version, but I don't like to think, oh, you're doing a regression of the back squat to try and progress. You're just you have an exercise that has its purpose. And the purpose of like a goblet squat, like I said, anterior loaded, people can stay really upright because you can chuck the weight wide out in front, versus a back squat is hard to counterbalance. So I don't like to think of the SSB as a regression. And I think if you look at people's programming within the gym now, like the staple squat exercises, when you've got past like learning how to do the squat, like the ones that stick around and you never kind of move away from, if you're looking at the barbells, is your front squat in, back squat in, pause squat, tempo, and safety bar. I think they're the big five. I love a safety bar, and for like you said, a lot of people really struggle with that back position. But even if you can get a good back position, if you're doing like high repetition work, there's just more prone to either lose that position in the upper back, which is then going to cause compensation either through the shoulder, through the scapula, or through like the lower back. So when you're doing the high rep work, especially under fatigue, these kind of technical breakdowns are going to happen easy with a back squat comparatively to a safety bar. So
that's why it's called
safety first. But if you look at like my programming, people's programming, we use the safety bar as like the primary hypertrophy kind of style squat, and then your high intensity. You can still do it for high intensities, but it lends itself really well to a hypertrophy exercise. And I think the back squat is better for slightly low repetition work. So I think if you're going to compare which one's best for sets of 8, I think safety bar wins hands down. Not to say you can't do back squat, but like safety bar is a great exercise.
I think like it, as you said, like it basically helps you to maintain the optimal form for the higher volume, which I think is great explanation.
So when you're looking at the back squat and what are someone's asking what are the differences? What are like the differences? What's getting worked more? What's we said it's easy technically, but
back squat and safety bar.
Yeah, just compare the back squat to.
I would say that like when you back squatting, you are very predominantly loading the spine. Obviously, posterior loading. So I wouldn't really say that like, oh, you work more hamstring and then more quads or more lower back and these things. Like it's still knee dominant exercise, both of them. And as you said that, like, I think it depends how people can maintain and actually adjust the posture. So some people would have like longer torso, shorter femur. So I think you should probably do something what suits your like anthropometrics. Like I really enjoy front squat, and I know Mark, let's say, really likes front squat.
Yeah.
If you're powerlifting, like you want to stick and find your way around the back squat probably.
Yeah. Front squat is very rare in powerlifting.
Yeah.
There's a couple of coaches that really like it, but if you're going for a more anterior loaded exercise, again, because powerlifters that are benching all the time, they're just not going to get into a good rack position. So if I was trying to get the best rack position I can, I'm not going to lift nowhere near as much as a safety bar. But let's say your technique on the back squat compared to your technique on the safety bar. What are the differences? So we said about the shoulder position, less technical breakdown.
Yeah, I personally don't like safety bar squat that much.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't.
Wow. Okay. This is change the question. Front squat versus safety bar. Either you an argument for 4 minutes.
If we're talking like me and you, because you said you really like safety bar squat, I actually don't. I really like the Hatfield variation, which allows me to squat like spinal loading.
Yeah.
A little heavier, but obviously I'm using the anterior support.
Yeah.
Back squat itself, I think I haven't done it that much that I found myself comfortable with it just yet. But I really do see the difference with the shoulder rotation, and I think if you obviously don't want to like hit a plateau or just like get into one position and then try like finding it hard to open up your shoulders, I think it's great for that. Like again, variation in your training.
Yeah.
So not just doing it for the sake of like, oh, one day I'll do back squat and the other day safety bar. Like again, know your why.
Yeah.
But I think safety bar is brilliant, like tool in a gym.
Yeah.
Did it answer your question?
No, but it's
so let's go back again to
no.
question.
So the difference between the safety bar and the back squat, which is what the original question was. You gave some really good points, but like when you actually break it down, the nitty gritty, the safety bar is going to be more upright than the back squat.
Because obviously of the anterior.
Yeah, slightly more anterior loaded, so you're going to be a lot more upright. So, like you said, less spinal demands, and there's going to be, as a result, then a little bit more quad dominance. Not a massive amount, not like 80% more in the quads. But
sure,
maybe
like there are differences.
Like 10% differences. But the main thing is like a lot of people find that kind of combination of hip and knee, especially when you're squatting 2-3 times a week, they find like the more hingy style squats, which will be your low bar, that can really take a bit of a battering on your back, especially if you're trying to push some of the hinge work, some deadlift work. It can become a lot. So having a squat where you're staying a bit more upright, trying to stress the quads a little bit more, which are the primary mover in the squat, can be really beneficial. So you're getting a bit of extra quad work, you're reducing the loading through the spine, and it's a lot easier technically as well. So I think they're the big ones, and it's just under the fatigue, it's a lot easier to maintain. What I do like at the minute with the safety bar is like taking it a step further and actually trying to distinguish between the low handle and the high handle. So you can, if you're on the SSB, when you're bracing, really actively pull the handles down, which can really help you get like a good sat position. It can help you learn to get the like initial brace that you're after, but then you can turn it into a bit more of a hingy squat.
kind of have it all the way up.
Yeah, I personally now I'm doing handles up, and it is so difficult because you're trying to keep the handles as super high as you can. As a result, a bit more knee flexion, really bolt upright. It's incredibly tough. When you go in high handles, it's like probably a combination between front squat and high bar squat. When you go in handles down, it's probably a combo between the low bar and the high bar. So again, it's horses for courses, but the high handles, if you really wanted to stress the quads and reduce the loading through the spine, but also reduce the loading, you're going to go high handles. If you want a pattern similar to your low bar, but without the technical breakdown, you can really focus on pulling the handles down. Last point, because I can see you itching to chat, is I also really like the safety bar for people to begin with, because it is slightly more anterior loaded, like a goblet. It's easy to get that orientation of the ribs and the pelvis. With the bar on your back, especially if you've got that little bit of restriction in the upper body, it's really difficult to get ribs over pelvis, nice and braced, nice and stacked. When you've got the handles here, it's so much easier to get that alignment, and it really helps like people feel where they should be to initiate a lift.
I just wanted to literally point on what you said, which I think was a great point, that it takes a bit of the demand of the spinal loading, which again, if you squat in multiple times a week, I think it could be a great variation to take the demands of the spinal load.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you would be back squatting 3 times a week, just proper back squat.
And deadlifting.
That's quite a lot. So hence the variation, like.
So if you're putting together like a microcycle, even if you're squatting twice a week, but you've got your heavy deadlift, maybe it's a good idea to do your deadlift if you wanted to stay fresh. Some people like deadlifting after squat to replicate the comp or whatever. But if you want to be fresh on your deadlift day, reduce the spinal demands, do your safety bar the day before rather than your back squat. You might feel that the actual little fatigue in the back's a lot nicer and able to handle more load through the week. So yeah.
Excellent, yeah, great tool.
Ramblings about the SSB, there we go. But so to summarize, Sonia hates the SSB, loves front squat. I love safety bar and I hate front squats. So there you go. We don't agree on everything. Final question?
Yeah. So obviously we're using loads of med ball throwing in our metcons, and I think like we've used it a lot in the barbell cup as well, and I think it's a very like a favorite tool in the gym.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of questions like, or people kind of itch to maybe use the heavier rolls like the 9, the 6, the 12 we have. So I just kind of wanted to like explain why I always stress the low load, high velocity, and why I really push for using the 3 kilo balls for the stuff we do in the metcons. So obviously, if you would be using for what we kind of prescribe the heavier ball, you kind of limiting your ability to do the thing you actually want to achieve, which is like creating like propulsive force. So your med ball complexes and your med ball throws should be executed at high velocity and should be aimed to be very fluid. Basically, you're learning like a sequence of, you know, your shoulder, your trunk, your hips. So using heavier ball for this stuff would kind of limit the ability. And if you all remember, like when we bought the new balls, I think like it was just flying all around the place. And now
balls flying all over the place.
Luke, this is not the podcast. I just was gonna say that everyone's improved so much, and I think you all can say yourself that like the weeks in doing the med ball work, you just got much better at it, and you can tell that like doing it over and over again, there's always something to do better and better. So, you know, just for the sake of using a little heavier ball, it's not gonna make you like, it doesn't mean that you are holding back. If we're using 3 kilo ball, you're doing the right thing for the right purpose. So if you want to be using the heavier balls, that's where you maybe should, you know, that's where the stuff like strongman stuff comes in, like your sandbag throws over yoke.
Yeah.
Or med ball throws over the head. That's where you kind of hinge in. You like using a bit more like a swing element into it. Like that's just completely different element.
I feel that the problem with the med ball work is it's not quantifiable. When you're doing like a kettlebell swing or you're doing, I don't know, a barbell lift, it's like, oh, I've got stronger. There's no way to quantify apart from how it feels if you're getting better at the velocity work.
This is actually a really good point.
So people naturally think, well, I've been doing 3 kilo for ages. If you had a velocity tracker on the ball and you're like, fuck, I used to fire that ball at 0.9 1 meter a second. Now it's 1.2. Oh my God, I got 20% faster. You might be like, fuck, this is amazing. I'm going to continue with this ball. I'm going to get rapid with this ball. But because you haven't got this instant feedback like you do when you lift in a weight or kettlebell, we're like, oh man, I was doing 24, now I'm doing 32. I've got stronger. You're doing the 3 kilo ball forever, and you're like, I'm not getting any better.
But actually, if you would use like a slow-mo, or as you said, velocity tracker, you would see that possibly the biomechanics are better. The hip shifting is better, because obviously there's progression and regression. So like, starting in like bilateral stance, then you go into like a front back stance, squatting, half kneel. Like we do loads of these variations, and I gave people like a seated rotation and people still can't do it. So I think this is the little progression, but I completely know where you're coming from.
Absolutely. I just thought about it as soon as I said that, like, what would be cool? We did like the performance testing. We did like a med ball throw. You could do like a rotation throw. It wouldn't be perfect, but like it'd be great to give people a chance to like, wow, look how far you've thrown this ball now. Or how fast you've thrown it.
Because if you use 9 kilo ball for like a med ball throw, you're limiting yourself.
You lose the speed component, which is what you're training, and you haven't gained the strength component because it's still only 9 kilos. What you're doing is a bastardized version that's nowhere. It's in the middle. It's in that grey area. You're not lifting it fast. You're not lifting it heavy enough to get a strength gain. You're just doing kind of no benefit. So it is tough, and I can see why people naturally think I need to progress it. I need to get better. But sticking at the 3 kilo ball and working for speed orientated exercises, focus on your velocity. Is what's better. It is hard, but you can hear the difference in the noise when you get like a couple of reps.
It's very subjective, and like I've read loads of arguments about this. Like Instagram, which obviously just like coaches chat, but like because people do kind of feel that there's no progression, was actually it's subjective. Like I can tell, you can tell that people moving better, it sounds better. I think like subjectively I can tell that like I know that I've been doing it for a while and it's just better.
100%. But I guess like if you're not massively into that, and also because people just don't understand that, like people don't understand it's a velocity exercise. They're thinking like they only know in the gym progressing the weight, they don't know to try and progress the velocity. So there's a little bit of the understanding behind it, but also it's especially I guess when you're in a class and the music's loud, there's another 3 people next to you throwing a ball. It is a bit harder to track, but absolutely. It's the understanding that it is the velocity exercise rather than a strength exercise, and the progression is the speed rather than the actual strength. Do you use the heavy balls for anything? Like, do you like them for slams? Do you like them for,
I like them for slams. I would even like heavier options for like chucking over the yoke, but let's say for that we're using the sandbags.
I was gonna say that 9 kilo ball over this. There's not much of a session.
But I do use them for the slams. Like so they do have their space.
There's a reason we got them. And if a strong man ever comes to the gym that's throwing a 20 kilo keg over 10 meter thing, then he might be able to use them.
Exactly.
I haven't seen anyone in the class that can do like a 9 kilo med ball with good velocities that wouldn't benefit from going slightly lighter. So
awesome.
Use your speed exercises, and your strength for your strength. Try and avoid that murky grey area. There you go.
Right.
There you go. Quick fire, 4 questions in 30 minutes. I think that's fantastic. So
tune in with Luke and Sona.
Hopefully we'll had some good takeaways from that. If you have any other questions for us for the next time, please link them below or drop us a message, drop us a DM. We're still taking people on for Barbell Club for the next couple of weeks before we shut things off prior to the Christmas break, which obviously will still be open, but we won't be taking new people on until January. January, big push. So thank you all for listening, guys. Until next time, speak to you soon.